Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and you're listening and or watching the Snob OS Show, the show where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back to a new episode this week. We are happy to have you. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the show. We're going to start with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. First up on the docket this week is some new hardware that Apple has released in the form of the Magic Keyboard with the Touch ID. So previously, when they did the spring loaded event, they announced all of the new iMacs and all of the wonderful different colors and the keyboard that it comes with in the color of whatever you decide. You got a Magic keyboard that came with a Touch ID. Now you can purchase separately this keyboard. So the Magic keyboard with just the Touch ID is $149, and the Magic keyboard with the Touch ID and the numeric keypad that kind of sits on the side is $179. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you cannot purchase these keyboards in the rainbow colors of
Right.
the iMacs. You can only get these in the silver white combo, the standard color of the Mac keyboards that you can purchase. Along with that, it comes with a new braided Lightning to USB-C cable, that we first saw with the new iMacs. And also, this new keyboard isn't just for everybody. It's only compatible with other M1 Macs. So if you have a Pro or an Air or a Mac Mini, this keyboard will work with your device as long as it is M1.
These are only compatible with that. So, but something interesting that you mentioned, it comes with a braided Lightning to USB-C cable. Hopefully, they'll continue that trend and put it and ship it with, or make it available for, iPhones, AirPods, anything that takes a Lightning or a USB-C cable, because Apple has been clowned time and time again for their weak, flimsy, easy to destroy Lightning and or USB-C cables that come in the box with an iPhone or any of your other devices. So hopefully they will offer this braided cable, which braided cables historically have been a little more
Durable.
rugged, and durable. Probably more so, just out of the gate than any other regular Lightning cable. So hopefully they'll continue that trend.
Definitely. So yeah, if you are in the market for a new standalone keyboard and you have one of those M1 devices, this is for you. Go and long live and prosper and enjoy it. All right. The next thing, Safari. Safari's been having some issues, especially with the new version that's coming out. Some folks who have been using it aren't particularly a fan, but Apple has released their preview version, which is called Safari Technology Preview. This is preview number 129, and you can use this on the Big Sur and also the new Monterey. So basically, you can use the new Safari without having to use the beta Monterey macOS version. So this latest preview version, it updates some fixes and improves performance. On this article from 9 to 5 Mac, it says it improves performance and bringing bug fixes for Web Inspector, CSS, scrolling, rendering, WebAssembly, Web API, platform features, IndexedDB, media, WebGL, and Web Crypto. So it seems like a pretty comprehensive overhaul. Well, not overhaul, but updates So it looks like this is ready now as of Wednesday the 4th. If you're listening to the show after, not on the live version. So it looks like, again, this is available and ready to use if you have Big Sur. So you can get the experience again, like I said, without having to install the beta version of the newest OS, which is Monterey.
Yep. So that's interesting that, like I said, you can download it separate of the beta, which in most cases back in history, you had to have the whole beta version of the OS software to get the browser version. But it's cool that they kicked it separately, but it sounds like they got to hurry up and update that joint because people are not happy, I guess. So,
Yeah.
good news, bad news, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think people were complaining about the way it was designed, so I'm assuming they have, changed some of that. And it looks like you can get the update two ways. You can go to the Apple developer website and get it for free there, or you can get it through the System Preferences app on your Mac through the software update menu. So we'll definitely include this link in the show notes, and it gives you all the details on where you can get this Safari Technology Preview version 129. All right, moving right along, it looks like Apple Wallet continues to expand, and it is currently expanding to university students. So Apple released in a press release today that they are expanding the support for the student IDs in the Apple Wallet. Universities and colleges in the United States for this upcoming fall semester, which I'm assuming starts probably in a few weeks. This support is also being expanded out to Canada, which is a first. So essentially, how you have in your wallet, your debit card or credit card or whatever you have synced to pay, you can add your student ID, which a lot of times a student ID has like your meal pass, your meal plan on it, getting into like gyms or any other type of school sanctioned event is available on your actual iPhone or your Apple Watch. And you can use this anywhere that you would normally swipe or scan your student ID card. It says that this is available. Of course, it hasn't rolled out to all universities. It's currently starting with University of New Brunswick and Sheridan College in Canada, and in the US, Auburn University, Northern Arizona University, University of Maine, New Mexico State, and it says many more. So I'm not sure who all is included in the many more, but with the original pilot, I think Temple was one of the universities. Duke were one of the universities when this was first announced back with watchOS 5, I think, and iOS 12. But in addition to this, the University of Alabama is going to be the first university that exclusively uses the digital ID. So no more physical cards?
Right. No physical cards.
No physical cards.
You will have to have, and I don't know how it's going to work.
What if you don't have an iPhone?
Right. And what if you're poor? We can't assume that everybody, which is a good assumption to make, but we can't assume everybody has a smartphone at all. So
with this capability.
I'm thinking maybe let's just say that everybody, for argument's sake, let's just say every student does have some sort of smartphone. Maybe these digital IDs they'll have a contemporary in the Google Play Store, but it won't be as feature packed as the Apple Wallet version, to where, like you said, maybe it'll be a QR code for like the Android users, to where they can scan a QR code to gain access to buildings, load money or whatever the case may be. But the Apple Wallet version rather, will have the extra functionality that they list in the actual story. Because I refuse to believe why University of Alabama it takes a lot of money to go there. I don't think there's got to be a way around to where there's another
There
way.
has to be an
Yeah.
exclusionary clause that allows for physical cards for students who don't
Right.
have them. And I'm sure that has to be in place. They're maybe just not publicizing it as
Mm.
much. But they're saying from this article, it says in April 2021, for the first time since launching mobile student IDs and wallets, students use their mobile IDs to make purchases and access campus buildings more than they use the plastic card. So in the fall, I guess they started this in the spring, in April of 2021. But were students on campus in April? Maybe, I guess. That's interesting. So it seems as if when they made this available, they noticed that students were using the digital version more than the physical version. So then they just
Hmm.
decided to exclusively go with the digital version for their 38,000 students. With eligible devices. Okay. That's the
Hmm.
caveat. Okay. I was like, this seems a little weird, but in the last line of the quote from Apple, it says, this fall, the University of Alabama will be the first school to exclusively issue mobile student IDs to their 38,000 students with eligible devices. Okay, so if
Yeah.
you don't have an eligible device, you will probably still get the physical card. But if you
Hmm.
have an iPhone and or Apple Watch, the digital version will be your version of choice.
Yeah.
But I think it
I
just
hope.
goes to, what you've said, previously, our phones and our watches are going to replace the need for physical IDs, cards, passes, and such. So this looks like it's just the next chink in the link in that chain of events to get there.
Yep. Yep. Definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully, it spreads out to colleges to where you don't have to pay $1 million to be a student there, because it kind of
Yeah.
defeats the purpose. It's like you go to University of Alabama to have a digital wallet, but don't have no money in there because you can't afford
Right.
it.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of colleges, a lot of HBCUs are using their what is it? Is it the Rescue Act? I can't remember the exact name. Funds that I think it's the Rescue Act that people were getting for COVID relief. A lot of them are clearing the balances for their students who had balances for the 2020-2021 year. I think started
Hmm.
with Clark, Spelman, FAMU, and I think Morehouse announced this week they were the latest in the HBCU community to wipe out to use their rescue funds to take that burden off students, which is great in itself. And I noticed someone on Twitter, what makes this even greater is historically HBCUs are severely underfunded unless you
Hmm.
are one of those one or two universities that get all the money, like your Spelmans, your
Hmm.
Morehouse, your FAMs, your Howards. And the fact that
Hmm.
they are taking this money that they could definitely use to put back into the school, they're putting it back into the students to relieve that burden from students. So,
And it's only right because
yeah.
they're college. You spend all that money, you go to college, right? But since things were virtual, graduations were virtual. What? Why am I paying money to go to college when I'm sitting at home? I could not pay money and not pay as much money to sit home. So, in addition to, like you said, being a good move, publicity wise, and just you know making sure you take care of your students, which students are supposed to be first. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And in contrast, Ohio State, who is a very well known, very profitable, I think they have like a $2 billion endowment. Instead of the typical dorm rooms, they basically have like barrack style dorm
Oh
rooms.
wow.
So if you think of the military, how you have your
Hmm.
bed, you have your
The
little
bunks.
cubby, that's what
Hmm.
they have these students in now. one of the students showed kind of the space, and it's just like a bed and like a dresser. And then on the other side of that is a bed and a dresser, and they're divided by their dressers. And I was like, they showed the video. I was like, this one cannot be safe for COVID. And two, if you're paying, because I think the breakdown was like $10,000 for room and board. I'm like, you're paying $10,000 for that when you can go and get a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in Ohio for probably $500-$600 a month.
Right.
So
they kind of like how Kanye is in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
yeah, basically.
In it.
Basically.
Right. So they'll probably spin that into some chic, new way of dorm room living.
Yeah. Which is extremely unfortunate and zero privacy.
Right.
All right. The last thing that we have in the lowdown this week is related to Apple Car. So that's Apple's self-driving vehicles. So they have expanded their test driving fleet to 68 cars and 72 drivers in California. And this information comes courtesy of the California Department of Motor Vehicles, because you have to register cars. So it looks like they started out with 68 self-driving cars, and now they've added one more car to this fleet. And when they first started testing it out back, it looks like in November of 2018, they only had 72 cars, but they had 154 drivers. So it looks like they've increased the number of cars, and it looks like they've scaled down the number of drivers. So they have about, almost 70 of these Apple cars out in the wild in California being tested out to see how they will work. And I know that a lot of us have been, really trying to figure out what this Apple car is. Is it a whole separate car? Are they partnering with someone? Because I think back, was it earlier this year, the end of last year, there was like a Kia Hyundai announcement that they were kind of working together with. Then that kind of went away. I think BMW was mentioned, Nissan was mentioned. I have not heard of Canoo, but apparently that was another partnership. So I'm interested to see what exactly is the Apple car? Is it its own standalone type of vehicle, or are there kits that can be put into other vehicles? It's quite unclear, but anybody out there in California who's listening, if you see one of these vehicles out in the wild, definitely snap a picture and let us know what's going on with it.
Well, so the test vehicles are not going to be anything remotely close to the production. They're probably minivans with Apple's autonomous driving system.
The guts are in, yeah.
Right. Now, what your question is, whether they're going to continue that and use a system and partner with Nissan, Kia, Hyundai, BMW, and let them, you have a BMW, whatever the case may be, but as an add-on, you have Apple's autonomous driving system. That's what I think it is. Yeah. I doubt if Apple has enough. They may, but it seems like it would be like Apple, similar to how CarPlay works. You partner with a company, you add your system on top of whatever they're doing. So you BMW fans have a BMW, but you also have Apple's autonomous driving system. That would be my guess.
Yeah. And that sounds probably right, because there were too many different car manufacturers that were brought up in this time frame, and there's no way that they are building their own car and building a car with each of these manufacturers that have been mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see what the final output of this is. But in this article, it mentions back in March that there was a patent granted to Apple for a night vision system. So it does, lead further to, the guts of the vehicle for the autonomous portions being in other vehicles. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how it all kind of fleshes out. And we don't know when this is going to happen. There were dates, 2024, 26, 28. Who knows? Apple will release it whenever they feel like it, likely with not much forewarning to us, the consumer, until it's, pretty much done and tested and ready to ship. So,
Right.
all right. So that is it for the lowdown. Let's head on over to Second String, where we talk all other tech. Starting off this week, we have news from Zoom. Back at the beginning of the pandemic, Zoom was the go-to leader in any type of collaboration that you needed to have for meetings, for school, for any type of person-to-person interaction when we were on quote-unquote lockdown. Because here in Georgia, we never really were on lockdown. Some places were, we were not. But it has come to light that they were not quite so truthful about their end-to-end encryption. And by not truthful, I mean they lied about about the data, the user data that they were providing to both Facebook and Google without the end user's permission. So all of that to say is that Zoom has agreed to pay $85 million to settle the complaint. The proposal was filed over the weekend in U.S. District Court in the Northern District of California. It is a class action settlement, and it applies to all categories of users, whether you have the free version or the paid version. And you think, wow, 85 million is a lot of money, so people are going to get a lot of coin. No. It appears that each user will get either $15 or $25. I'm assuming 15 if you were on the free version and 25 if you were on the paid version in the agreement. So if you are a Zoom user, you may be getting, a half tank of gas out of this lack of transparency about your user data and what was sent to the likes of Facebook and Google, two of the most notorious mishandlers of user data. So that agreement has come, together with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. So yeah, that's going to be rolling out. They don't have a date as to when money will start rolling out or what you will need to do to get your $15 or $25, but just know that it is coming.
Yeah, I don't understand why Zoom did this. They were popular. People were using it left and right. Of course, most of the people are using the free version, and I understand. I get it. Businesses are in business to make money. So the people who were using the free service, as with anything nowadays, you have to expect them to be making money somehow. And the way they were making money was by giving your data to Google and Facebook. I don't understand why they had to hide that point. I don't understand why they had to lie about that point.
You ain't got to lie, Craig.
Right. They, as popular as Zoom was, because their revenue went from 622.7 million to 2.7 billion in just 12 months.
Wow.
So the 85 million is just a drop in the bucket. They got their money. But that is less $85 million than a little bit of egg on their face when they could have just came up and said, look, you're using a free version. Everybody and their mama's using it. If you want to use it, trust that we are going to make our money by selling something, your data, your profile, whatever the case may be. We're selling it to somebody else other than keeping it for ourselves. And the fact that with the security improvements, they were making all that money. I mean, of course you want to maximize profit and minimize overhead, but if you know for a fact that all these people, specifically kids, in this pandemic, You know you were getting money hand over fist. I don't understand why you couldn't just beef up security instead of waiting for
Until you got
kids
caught.
to until you got caught. But I mean, I'm saying it out loud, but that kind of seems run par for the course
Yep.
for these businesses. So I
Yep.
guess mission completed for Zoom, I guess.
But at this point now, they're going to have to not only pay out the $85 million, but they're also going to have to invest money in this security or tell people that you don't have no encryption. And with the other platforms, kind of coming up to speed, there is some competition there, with that. So they're going to have to update and improve their encryption or risk losing some of their customers. So, all right. The next thing we have is WhatsApp. So it appears that WhatsApp has introduced a new feature on both iOS and Android apps, and it allows you to send photos and videos that disappear after being opened. Not like your typical, what in Snapchat, how you have or Instagram where you have like the stories where it disappears after 24 hours. These disappear after opening them once. So it deletes the content immediately after the other person has seen it. So I think, of course, WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and I know they had a bit of controversy around how they were handling some of their data. So I think this is just another way that they're again trying to save a bit of face by having this option of introducing this new view once feature.
Well, they're trying to. Well, in addition to that, and maybe even more so, they're trying to keep up with Instagram and Snapchat because both Instagram and Snapchat are heavily used for direct messaging. Especially amongst the youngsters, the youth. That's something Facebook is really trying to get. So they're trying to keep up with them as far as this feature because other platforms have it. Additionally, I guess I don't get it. I guess that's why I don't use it. Because me being a techie, I'm immediately trying to think of ways to get around this. And the only way I can think of getting around, the two ways I can think of getting around it is sure, the image disappears. What happens if I screenshot it? If I screenshot it, then
You
it's
still
saved to my
got it.
camera roll.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are ways that companies can detect if a screen is using screenshot and disable that. But if I just got two phones, I just hold it up and then take a picture.
Yep.
Same difference. So
Yeah.
that's not WhatsApp's fault. That's just like that whole
That's just the nature
feature,
of the beast.
right? Because I don't if I was an avid user of these platforms like that, to where my whole social identity is wrapped up in sending DMs back and forth. I guess this would entice you to be a little bit more not risque, but share stuff that you would hope that the person who's watching it only doesn't retain
Doesn't
access
isn't the type of person that's going to
to keep
share
it
what's meant
right.
directly for you.
But again, like I said, there's ways around it. So it's
Yeah.
almost like I don't get it. But again, I'm not the demographic. So, you
But a
know,
lot of international folks use WhatsApp. If you're here in the States and you have family in
right? I get
Africa
that.
and all that type of stuff. So, but it's for those edge cases where people are, let's be honest. They in the article they reference if you want to send someone a picture of new clothes that you're trying on in the store and want a quick reaction, or if you're sending something sensitive like a Wi-Fi password. Let's be honest. This is for nudes.
Right.
So it's kind of like if you're sending someone a new photo, this is supposed to give you, I guess, a sense of a little bit more comfort that this will disappear after the person sees it. So
Yeah.
I think, honestly, that's, what it's for.
Right. If you fall for that one, then don't. You can't blame WhatsApp if your nudes get out
Yeah.
because they have this feature. Because you should know going in. Once you put it out there, it is out there. I
It's
don't
out
care
there
what
and,
platform.
yeah.
I don't care what format. I don't care who you send it to. You be sending it to your close dearest friend. But we've had stories, tell all books, to
Revenge
where some of
porn.
this Right, right.
Yeah.
Or this information gets on the internet somehow, some way. So
Yeah.
there are whole platforms, there are whole forums dedicated to people airing out this type of laundry. So
Yeah.
again, it's a dope feature, I guess, keeping up with the Joneses, but yeah, it ain't for me.
Yeah, and all you have to do is tap the number 1 button on your phone before sending the video and or photo. So, yeah. All right, that is it for Second String. Let's head on over to For the Culture, where we talk social commentary, thoughts, ideas, what's going out on in the world or in the social media streets. We have a couple of things to cover this week. The first one, we talked about it last week, that Twitter was sunsetting their feature fleets, which is Twitter's version of stories. It was supposed to go out on the 2nd of August. And, as Twitter usually does, because Twitter is a wild, wild place, fleets went out with a bang, and it was renamed on the second, or the first, I guess, Fleetnik, because people were dropping all sorts of not safe for anybody content. That includes nudes, that includes acts that should not be on social media. And it was just a big cluster of activity that went on well into the night. And when folks woke up on the 2nd, they were expecting their fleets to be gone. Fleets were still there. It took a little bit of time before, Apple officially pulled the plug and they were no longer
Twitter.
on your device. Yeah, Twitter. They were no longer showing on the top of your Twitter feed. But yeah, folks were having a blast. Folks were getting clowned for their decision to post what they posted, because some people thought they were doing a bang up job and their feelings got hurt. And I will say on the 2nd, looking at I guess technically the first second in that time frame, there were a lot of blue circles on folks' profiles. When you scroll on your timeline, if you have a blue circle around it, that means you have an active fleet going on. And it was a pretty wild night, and it went well on into the late night hours. People were associating it with the once Twitter after dark time on the app. So yeah, they couldn't bring the actual Freaknik back to Atlanta because it kept falling apart. But if you have Twitter and were on fleets and following certain people, you got your taste of Freaknik in Fleetnik. So my question to you is, did you participate or partake in any of the Fleetnik activities?
Never knew existed until just now. The logic of some people is just astounding. I don't know. I don't know what it is about mob rule and jumping on a trend for the sake of jumping on a trend, but this is one of those to where, again, with the previous story, WhatsApp and pictures disappearing, this kind of follows that same story to where people assumed, okay, well, the pictures or the videos or whatever they were doing is going to be gone. So here's my chance to, whatever. I don't
Literally
know.
let it all hang out.
Yeah, like I don't. That's so dumb. Because again, sure, nobody may not see it after this, but they know how the internet works. These same people that took part of this knows how the internet works.
Yep.
They know that once you put it out there, it stays out there. Yes, Twitter was sunsetting this feature. They were probably going to scrub their databases, their servers with all this information, but they know how the internet works. And I just hope, again, it's not hypocritical, but it's the difference between ignorance and stupidity, right? Because you can claim the same thing with racist thing. You hear kids, you hear people who are now superstars, megastars, whatever, and they're entertainers. We dig up tweets from them from when they were 12, 13, or whatever, or back in the day when Twitter first started, and they dig up all these tweets of you saying some crazy things. And the first line of defense is, well, I was young, I didn't know no better, I've grown, I've changed as a person, right? You should give me the grace. That was 5 years ago. I have moved on to do all these great things. I've grown, I've changed. I'm not that person that I was before. All those things, right? We know how that is, right?
Yep.
So when something now, not 5 years ago, not back when Twitter first came out, this is last weekend, this past weekend, this new trend pops up. You can, in my opinion, you can no longer use the I've grown since then. When you know how the internet works, you know they like to dig up stuff. So for you to partake in this thing, and then 3 years down the road, or the next time you blow up, oh, we've got these pictures now of you doing this on this, this Fleetnik, when Fleets was going away. You can't use the excuse of I didn't know no better.
You do exactly
You
what
know,
you're doing.
you knew exactly what you were doing. You know how the internet works. Anything you put out there, they will find it. They will dig it up. It will come back to bite you. But I guess, again, I'm not going to stand in the way of a good time. If that's what y'all want to do to entertain yourselves, I'm not going to be the old crotchety dude. But just know, if it comes up, you can't use that same old tired, I've grown, I'm not that person that I was before, because you knew exactly what time it was. You decided to jump on a trend, didn't think it was going to come back to bite you, and it will. So
The trend always comes back to bite you. And I
mhm.
will say, I think I didn't watch any of the fleets. I've never used that whole fleet thing. It seemed kind of, I don't even like really user stories or Facebook story, not user
It's
stories.
just too
I just,
much.
it's a lot. And I'm like,
It's
I don't
just too
really
much
care.
content.
Yeah.
It's just
It's content
I get it.
overload.
I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. If you're trying to brand yourself, if you're trying to leverage social media for marketing, advertising, I get it. But if you just think, you take Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, three of the popular ones. We're not talking, not including Snapchat, WhatsApp,
TikTok.
all these other TikTok, all these other ones, right? If you just think Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you've got the main feed times three: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You've got direct messaging times three. You've got stories now times three. That is 369 different ways on different platforms. You feel like you have to share content, and that can. I don't see how people are not stressed out, feeling like not only we're in this era to where you have to share everything. I mean everything. Wake up in the morning, brushing your teeth, picking clothes, going to work, going to school, at work, coming back from school, work, cooking dinner, playing with your family, any other extracurricular activities that you take, all that stuff we want to share. You got to share that times three platforms times multiple features within that platform that you got to share. Because you got to use stories to get in this sort of engagement. You got to use your regular feed to get this type of engagement. You got to comment on all the stuff to get this sort of analytics. And I can see how that drives people crazy. And like I said, I'd say maybe a year or two ago, I decided, look, I'm not doing all that. I think I just can't. Right? I'll post here and there something funny, something interesting. I'll even debate a little bit, but that's it. But I can see how feeling the need to jump on a trend in order to expand your influence, in order to leverage it to do whatever you're trying to do. I can see how you can make a misstep because you're trying to jump on this trend. You don't think about it because the way the internet works, if you think about it too long, it's over with.
You
So
missed the moment.
you've missed the moment, right? And then add FOMO on top of that. I can understand how you could make a misstep, but I hope people, like I mentioned before, recognize that when you put it out there, it's out there, and this need to share everything. Eventually, you're either going to get burnt out. At the minimum, you'll get burnt out. At the most, you'll put something out there that's going to bite you in the butt.
You'll lose everything. So
Right.
two things. So the comments, like I said, I didn't watch any of the fleets, but the commentary on people that were watching them had me rolling. It was it was like one of the funniest things I had seen on Twitter in a really long time. And that's saying something because there's always something going on Twitter. But it was very entertaining. The second thing is when you were talking about how much we share of our lives on all these different platforms in all these different ways. My mom called me Monday morning, or was it Tuesday morning? One of the mornings, and she was like, "Hey, just checking in." One of my aunts had said, "Hey, have you talked to her? Is she okay? Is everything going on?" Because I hadn't posted anything on Facebook, and she was like, she normally kind of keeps up and keeps track, with the goings on because of social media, and because I hadn't posted anything, she thought something was wrong. So I think
Right.
that just leads to how much we use and base our life on social media. I hadn't posted anything because there wasn't anything I wanted to post. I
Right.
had been on Facebook because I was scrolling. I try and see things, but I mean, there was nothing that I felt I wanted to share or needed to share. But it just goes to show how ingratiated social media is into our everyday lives that if you don't post something, people start to think,
It
"Oh
didn't
my God,
happen.
is something wrong?" Or "Are you okay?" Or those type of things. And I think that's really changing the fabric of how we interact with each other. Just in general, forget putting it into buckets of in person or online. It's just changing the way that we interact with each other, period.
Yep, yep, absolutely. It's almost like to where if you didn't post it, it did not
It did
happen.
not happen.
You can't go to a comedy show, you can't go to a concert, you can't go to an event. Just you can't go to the park with your kids without letting people know at this moment in time, this is what I was doing. And I don't know, I don't believe that it will turn into a surveillance state so much so as, like you've mentioned, it's going to warp our reality as it relates to what we do on a daily basis. Like I said, I don't think the government's going to end up watching everything that we do. There will be data to be had, but I think more so, I just think we are going to hit a moment in time to where people get burnt out. And people feel like, okay, well, I didn't. They get and people. I'm pretty sure there's studies to where people get anxious and have anxiety if they're not able to capture this moment and share it with their respective people. I think it's going to be a problem.
I think, you know what? I think some of the social scientists, some of the psychologists, what they're doing now is they're collecting information, they're collecting data, because there is going to be a study probably in the next 10 or so years, because that'll probably be around the 20-25 year mark of us as a society being on social media the way we are now, so that they can gauge the mental aspects of this, the social aspects of this, the consequences of what we think of now as, "Oh, I'm just going to take a picture of what I'm eating for dinner," or, "Oh, I'm just going to take a picture of me being out with my friends at a concert." I think what these social scientists and psychologists are doing now are just capturing all that data, and they're probably already seeing the trends of how this affects us mentally and socially at the start of this to where we are now, which I think is probably the peak of social media, and to see if there is a decline or how it declines. There are going to be, documentaries. There are going to be Netflix and YouTube series on the effects of social media on our society. I know it's coming,
Yeah,
and it's going to be fascinating to watch once they put all of the pieces together and do a comprehensive look of how we are in how we use social media, how we consume data, and how it informs our lives.
and don't get me wrong, I think the way we interact with people using social media is a good thing.
Yeah.
There are family and friends, that I've lost and regained as it relates to social media. There are friends and interests that I can share. And I mean, I get it. Like I said, I don't want to be that, Debbie Downer to where, oh, we're all going to hell because of social media. I don't want to be that type of person, but I'm pretty sure there's a subset, or there are kids and people who this is their entire life. And I don't think that should be a case. Social media is supposed to be a tool,
Yeah.
just like politics, just like, don't you can at me if you want to, just like religion is supposed to be a tool to help you live your life. It's not supposed to be the way you live your entire life, but it's supposed to be a
A
tool that you
subset of
use.
that life. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
when anything, too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I think social media will be proven to be to where if you don't know how to disconnect, if you don't know how to separate reality from social media reality, I think, like you mentioned, there are going to be documentaries of people who let it grab hold and they didn't let go.
Yep.
It'll be the new drug. It'll be the
Yeah.
new
It already is,
opiate.
really. Like you said, people feel they have to document everything. And again, there are positives and negatives to everything. It just depends on which weighs heavier, the positive or the negative. All right. Moving on, we talked a little bit about this last week. This is like the third week in the row that we are talking about this individual, but the baby faces the consequences, then issues the apology. And I use all of that because the baby, along with the consequences and along with the apology, was trending on Twitter on yesterday. Because, as we mentioned last week, the baby said some very harmful, misinformed things on at his Rolling Loud set. Then he followed that up by posting and doubling down on those things. And then later, he posted even more video and comments tripling down on those same ideals as it relates to the LGBT community, as it relates to HIV/AIDS. And now, again, this is freedom
Tried
of
to issue
speech. You can say whatever you want.
tried to issue an apology. It was
It
half-assed.
was very half-assed, and it was very much, I'm sorry about the misinformation about HIV/AIDS, but I still don't really, fool with the
Yeah.
LGBT community. That was the apology that he issued. So now that he is facing consequences for being able to speak his mind, which everybody is free to do, but you are not free of consequences, he has been dropped. Initially, he was dropped by, I think, Boohoo Man, which I think it may be some sort of clothing line or something. And he was like, I'm not worried about that. That ain't nothing. I'm still out here. It has now, to date, as of today, he has been dropped from 7 music festivals, citing his homophobic comments. And he issued a more PR type apology, which I won't read because it's another non-apology, because he does the typical thing that most folks do. You have to educate me. Social media is quick to cancel people. Oh, and by the way, sorry for the hurtful things I said.
But here's what you can do, right? Because people, like you said, he does that, that not mansplaining, but he does that kind of, it ain't all my fault thing. He could have just started and stopped with, I want to apologize to the LGBTQ plus community for the hurtful and triggering comments I made. Again, apologize for misinformed comments about HIV/AIDS, and I know education on this is important. Love to all. God bless the baby. Could have just did that. But
And
again, like
what you
it,
said, that blurb you said, before he got to that part, he said double the amount of words. Probably almost triple, just looking at the way it's written,
trying to
trying to
explain.
explain why he
Mhm.
said what he said, rather than just straight out
Apology.
apologizing.
An apology is an apology. It's not to attempt to dismiss. It's not an attempt to explain. It's not an attempt to put up a reason. It's not a attempt to bring other people into the apology. You are supposed to say, "I am sorry."
You're
That's what the
supposed to,
apology is.
yeah, you're supposed to acknowledge the wrong that you did. You're supposed to acknowledge the individuals and our community that you harmed. And you are supposed to acknowledge what you can do to not say those comments again or
And
change your
even
focus. And he could have left it at that.
and even before all this, an apology doesn't have to be this heartfelt, introspective,
No.
thoughtful look. He could have been like when he said those comments at that event, and he started to get wind of it. He could have been like, "Yo, my bad, y'all. I was tripping." That's an apology, and he could have left it at that. My bad, y'all. I was tripping. I was drinking. I was smoking. My bad. That my bad is almost like
The
the
universal,
I'm
I'm
sorry
sorry.
that everybody recognizes that, okay, my bad. It's
And
almost
even with
like
his
it.
first non-apology, had he stopped with the misinformed comments I made, had he stopped there, that would have been better. But
But
no.
people, but people feel like, and this is the problem, right? People feel like they have to either double down, right, or they have to put out this PR perfect, thoughtful, introspective, thoughtful piece, and then donate, money to Boys and Girls Club or something like that. It don't have to be those two. It could just be like, "Yo, I was tripping. My bad. I was tripping." He could have just
Even
said
if
that.
even if you didn't mean it.
Right.
Because obviously he went through the work of having his PR people craft this statement and put it out for him to be on social media today eating fruit, basically saying, I'm rich, I'm still getting money, nothing ain't stopping me, I'm not bothered, because obviously, he's been dropped from 7 performances.
And he'll
And
be all right. He'll be
it,
all right.
yeah.
These new artists, these new fans, again, there's so much information, so much things that are going on with social media. He'll be all right because, again, like I said before, we'll change the channel. It'll be on to the next story. Somebody else will say something inflammatory or something will happen, and we'll change the channel
And
and
let's be
he'll,
honest, there are some people who actually agree with what he said. So,
and, right. And that was my point. So I saw a Facebook story today, and again, and I'm just gonna say it, and I just had to be what it is. The way black people, the not the way, the nerve of black people to be so discriminatory, so hateful, so hurtful against another group of people,
another marginalized group.
another marginalized group of people, knowing all of the hell that we went through for the past however many hundreds of years is
And still to now.
insane. It is insane to me. And I saw a high school friend of mine. They didn't say it themselves, but they retweeted or reposted somebody with this, that, and they said, "So if we can cancel the baby, can we also cancel Lil Nas X?" And it's so uneducated, that type of uh
Hate,
what not, and
homophobia.
not just hate, but what aboutism, trying
Yeah.
to compare, and it's so flawed simply because the baby isn't. If the baby was gay, this would be a whole nother story because he is part of that marginalized group of people. So for the baby to point attention, call it shade, call it disrespect, hurtful, whatever you want to call those comments he made towards that group, yes, he has some consequences that he has to pay. Unlike Little Nas X, who is a part
Of
of
that
the
community.
community. And Lil Nas X, I could see if you made the comparison, if Lil Nas X
Had
said
said
something
something
derogatory
similar. Yeah.
towards heterosexual people. And again,
And all Little Nas X did was make a video about a song about his own experiences, which
that's
apparently that's what other rappers are doing. They put it under the guise of this is I grew up in the hood, so I'm talking about what I know. I sold drugs and talk about. He's talking about what he knows. He's talking about his life, but it's
right.
a problem when it's something that specifically black folks deem as unclean, as against the community, not
Immoral.
as if there aren't queer or LGBT people that are also black that have to face both of these things.
Right, right. And it's again, we kind of mentioned it a week or so ago. It's amazing how much attention we give to this. And like you said, in some cases, it is projecting a little bit because why are we oh,
Why do you care?
right. I don't know what the LGBT community will want out of, uh my guess is just leave.
They
They
want
just
to
want
be
to be
left
left alone.
alone to live their life like everybody else does. The same thing we
I,
say as
I
black people. We want to just be able to live our life and go to the grocery store, go out with our friends just how we want, and not have y'all bother us. Just leave us
and
alone.
and if you don't agree, and if you have whatever, that's fine. But that disagreement that turns into hate,
Yeah.
it's again the nerve of black people, of all the black people to
Of all the
understand,
people,
the people to understand
what oppression
what
is, what discrimination is.
right, what it looks like, how it can manifest itself, how you can use it to weaponize it, how you can discriminate a whole group of people just because of something that you don't necessarily understand. Of all the black people to understand, all the people to understand that, you would think black people understand that. So the nerve of a lot of our black, even if you don't agree, I get it, you don't agree, but
And that's fine. That's not your business, though.
to try to come up with these reasons and these try to extrapolate and try to
The
twist
mental
it.
gymnastics you have to do to
Right.
get to this point is
Why
crazy.
why even do all that? Just
Yeah.
mind your business.
Yeah.
Black people love to tell people mind your business, but
But they be the same ones not minding theirs.
we be all up in the gay folks' business. Mind your business.
Leave these people alone. Leave this community alone to live their life free and clear from your judgment, which you have no right to judge them on anyway. And let me just reiterate that had the baby not said these comments related to HIV/AIDS and the LGBT community, he would have had no problems, even though he brought out on the stage the man who physically assaulted a black woman who had just
Like, come on.
performed an hour before. Had he not
Yeah.
brought up the LGBT community or
Hmm.
HIV/AIDS, he would have been Gucci. And for me,
Yep.
that's my bigger issue, especially
Right.
as a black woman. Because
Right.
first of all, if we're going to go this route, neither one of them should have been on stage because the
Yep.
baby has been accused video of slapping a woman. Tory Lanez has have to say allegedly, even though
Hmm.
we have video and photographic evidence and the word of a black woman that she was shot by him.
Yep.
It really grinds my gears that we have all this focus rightly on what he said about the LGBTQ community, and the misinformation about HIV/AIDS. But what is additionally lost in this conversation is
Well,
the
it's sexist.
perpetual violence, physical violence against black women that seems to be the, oh, that's not so bad of it.
Right. We get it. They get a pass, which
They get a
again, that's a
pass.
whole nother
That's a whole nother
conversation to
rant that I could
have.
get on, but I won't.
Yeah, specifically within rap and hip hop,
Yeah.
and specifically, with the black community. Of course,
Yeah.
these same issues happen with the white community. They happen with, Asian community, happen with the Latino community, but I'm black, so I can only
And
talk
that's
about
I can
black
only talk
folks.
about. Right. Exactly. So we will see.
He'd be all right.
He will likely be fine, but I think he thought too much of himself and he thought he was above reproach. And he may make his way back. He will probably still have an audience because, again, there are people that think the way he does and they will likely still support him. But what I think this has shown him, that you aren't that famous, bro. You are not that popular that you cannot be quote unquote canceled, because honestly, nobody ever gets canceled. I hope, even though I know it won't, because again, like I said, he's already on social media boasting that, he's still rich and that these festivals dropping him or these things dropping him isn't affecting his money. He's projecting yet again his unbotheredness, but to me it's showing his botheredness. If you were truly
Right,
unbothered by this,
unbothered.
you would keep going about your rich life
Regular life,
and not even
yeah,
say anything, but you're constantly posting on social media about how unbothered you are.
right.
Again, more projection, because
Right.
as I mentioned last week, I think his comments are some sort of projection as well, in my humble
and that
personal opinion.
and that in and of itself is a whole nother conversation.
Conversation. Exactly. All right, let's head on over to the hookup this week.
All right, so for our me and my wife's anniversary, we got our closet redone, and it's finished. We had somebody come in and kind of give us a custom closet, and one of the things that I needed to do is to have a quick way to keep. Well, I needed a way to keep my firearms safe in the house, but I also needed a way to access them quickly if something were to go down. So, with the advent of this new closet we got, the my carpenter also added some drawer space in the actual closet. So, what I did was I needed to, instead of keeping my firearms locked in a special case that needs a key that I got to go hide the key so that I can retrieve the key, get to the lock, unlock the lock, do what I got to do, which takes up time when you're in an emergency. I did some research and found a biometric cabinet lock on Amazon. I think it's about $25. I haven't installed it yet, but basically what it does is it uses my fingerprint. So if there's an emergency that does happen, I can quickly go into my closet, use my biometrics, i.e., my thumbprint. I'll put my thumbprint on the sensor. It pops the lock to the drawer, and then I can do what I need to do versus trying to fumble around, find keys, unlock things. I can do what I need to do in a hurry. So, like I said, I haven't installed it yet. I'll probably do that maybe this weekend, and I'll do a follow up. But what struck me as interesting was I was thinking this is going to be $100, $200. With this lock that I can install myself. It's just $25 on Amazon, and you can actually register your thumbprint. I think you can register up to 2 or 3, up to 5 thumbprints or fingerprints, and it was only $25, and it looks pretty simple to install. So,
Nice.
yeah, I thought I was gonna have to buy some special closet, do all this extra stuff when it can actually be installed to current drawers. So
Cool.
basically, check it out. We'll put a link in the show notes. It is a biometric cabinet lock from Amazon. It was just $25.
Cool. All right, that is it for this week. Definitely thank you for listening to the show, and definitely want you to continue to engage with us on our show and support the show. And you can support the show in a couple different ways. You can start by download, rating, and reviewing us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. You can definitely hit us up and engage with us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're at SnobOScast on all 3 platforms. You can also watch us on YouTube where we are at SnobOS Cast. Definitely be sure, if you're going to watch this on YouTube, to like and subscribe to our channel. You can also definitely feel free to leave us any comments and suggestions via our website, snoboscast.com, or via email, snoboscast@gmail.com. You can also support us financially by going to our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/snoboscast, and support our show with a monthly $5 donation. With this monthly subscription, you get access to our pre-show content, our live taping, and also our chat community. You can also support us financially if you want to give us a one-time donation via PayPal. You can do that by going to paypal.me/snoboscast. And that is it for this week. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Peace.